Hey, welcome to a new video. In the 21st century, a virus wreaked havoc on humanity, leaving only about 2 million people alive. Those who survived the epidemic lost their ability to see. Now, centuries later, the concept of sight is just a legend to humans. In fact, being able to see is viewed as heresy. Are you new to this channel? Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And before we continue, also like the video. The tale begins in Eleni village, a small settlement in the Pan Kingdom nestled at the foot of towering, snow-capped mountains and surrounded by thick forests. This remote village takes its name from the Eleni tribe, known for their deeply scarred faces and milky eyes. Historically, the Eleni have had strained relations with the Pan Kingdom. The tribe is governed by a chieftain named Baba Voss, who leads according to the people's desires. However, spiritual and religious leadership within the tribe is split between two individuals. The first is the Dreamer, a priest responsible for the community's spiritual well-being. The second is an elderly woman named Paris, who serves as a midwife and advisor to Baba Voss. The tribe practices a form of democracy, with every member having a vote. The chieftain has the power to convene a parliament to discuss issues affecting the entire tribe. Today, inside a cave, Baba Voss's wife Magra is giving birth and calls for Paris. A few months back, Magra was discovered alone and pregnant during a storm on the outskirts of the village. She was initially an outsider to the Alchemy, but quickly rose to prominence after marrying Baba Voss. At this moment, she wishes for her husband's presence, but the relentless blaring of a horn signals trouble outside. Paris informs them that a raiding party of men, horses, and dogs is approaching the valley, and they need to prepare a defense to safeguard the village and its people. Baba Voss, who oversees the village defenses, is a formidable figure with a thick beard and hair tied in a bun. He wears armbands adorned with large animal claws and carries a massive blade over his shoulder. One of Baba Voss's soldiers, possessing extraordinarily sharp senses, determines the formation of the approaching army. The other soldiers quickly rally behind their chieftain to confront the threat. However, they soon realize that they face more than just a raiding party. To their dismay, it turns out to be a full army of about 200 soldiers. They brace for battle in the thick forest, readying themselves for a fierce clash. Inside the cave, Paris assists Magra in giving birth. She also reveals that for the last 3 nights, dreams have been warning her that witchfinders are approaching their village. Witchfinders are a religious military force from the Pan Kingdom, tasked with hunting down those who can see. They are committed to their sacred mission and are known for their ruthless and unforgiving methods, killing anyone who stands in their way. Paris suspects that they have come specifically from Magra. The scene shifts abruptly to the invaders, led by Tamakti Jun, the general of the Witchfinders. He is on a mission to capture a non-religious criminal responsible for the death of the queen's sister. Tamakti Jun has captured a member of the Eleni tribe named GB. The fierce general reveals that GB betrayed his own tribe for a reward. In exchange for valuable information, the turncoat revealed that at the end of winter, a woman 3 months pregnant had entered Balcony Village. She was taken in by Babos, who had long desired children. While Magra never revealed the identity of her baby's biological father, she possessed a necklace, which GB also handed over to Tamakti Jun. Engraved on the necklace was the name of the criminal the Witchfinders were seeking, Gerla Morel. Back in the cave, Magul gives birth to a son. Shortly after, Paris finds that a second baby is also on the way. As she continues to assist Magra, the scene switches back to the forest. Babas and his formidable warriors confront their enemies from atop a rock wall on a sloping hill. Initially, warriors tethered to ropes swing down from the wall to attack the foes below. The battle quickly escalates to intense hand-to-hand fighting. Babas uses the claws on his armband to stab his first opponent before decapitating him with his blade. The combat is fierce and rapid. Although none of the warriors can see, Babas and his group triumph in this clash by triggering a collapse of the rock wall, sending hundreds of boulders tumbling down. These boulders obliterate the Witchfinder battalion. Following the victory, the Eleno warriors start withdrawing back to their village. Meanwhile, Magra feels compelled by tradition, which dictates that newborns must hear the names of their true fathers. She confesses to Paris that the real father of her children is Gerla Morel. Later, Babas convenes a parliament, warning that the Witchfinder general will launch another attack as soon as the rain stops, and urges everyone to brace for more fighting. He then visits Magra and the newborns. During this time, the parliament concludes that the Witchfinders came specifically to search for Magra's babies. They believe that surrendering the newborns to Tamakti Jun might spare their lives. This leads to a tense standoff between Baba Voss, some of his loyal allies, and the rest of the village. But before the situation escalates, Paris announces that the Witchfinder army will reach the village sooner than expected. Nevertheless, she reveals she has a plan to save everyone from impending doom. Traditionally, the people of Alcony thought there was only one way to enter or leave their village. But the man who brought Magra to Eleni had confided in Paris about a bridge he constructed over a river, which could offer them a safe escape route before an attack. Many doubted this, finding it hard to believe that one person could build a bridge by himself. Nevertheless, with limited alternatives, they decide to pack up and head towards the bridge. After a few hours of walking, they indeed come across the bridge, but just as they start crossing, Tamakti-jun appears and releases his dogs after them. Despite some losses, they manage to cross safely. Once everyone, including Jibai, is on the other side, Baba Voss destroys the bridge. He believes that Jibi was taken against his will and not a willing traitor. Thwarted, Tamakti-jun dispatches a message to Queen Kane, the ruler of the Payan Kingdom, using a hawk. The scene switches to the queen in her palace at Kano Dam, a stark, imposing structure of concrete and metal. Bald except for a long ponytail, she is robed by her attendants. Seated in a chair, she spreads her legs, licks her hand, and begins to pleasure herself while offering prayers to God. She thanks him for the god Flame, which is actually the sun, and asks for her enemies to be punished. She concludes her ritual with a satisfied Amen. Later, she receives Tamakti-jun's message and summons her cabinet to a dimly lit room, illuminated by 2 rows of fire. Here, they discuss the notorious Yerla Morel, who is accused of killing her sister and promoting the concept of vision. The queen suspects that Yerla Morel might possess the ability to see and might have passed this ability to his children, although it's uncertain if this is possible. It is then revealed that Yerla Morel was the son of a slave, and once served the queen and her aides in the very same room. The next morning, Baba Voss is outside, holding his 2 adopted children and soaking in the sunlight. Unknown to him, one of the infants gazes intently at a hawk flying overhead, revealing that the newborns have the ability to see. A few days later, Babos is walking in the forest with his 2 children. Suddenly, he encounters a fearsome bear that separates him from the infants. Demonstrating his fighting prowess, Babos repeatedly stabs the bear in the neck and torso. Just as he is about to deliver the final blow, an arrow flies in from nowhere and kills the bear. The shooter is none other than Yerla Morel. He steps out from the trees and hands Baba Voss a key to a box hidden in a cave near the village waterfall. He instructs Baba Voss to tell Paris about the box, specifying that it should be given to the children when they reach the age of 12 summers. When questioned about the contents, Yerla Morel explains that it holds knowledge capable of creating a better world than that of their ancestors. He also advises Baba Voss to name the children Haniwa and Kofun, so he will recognize them when they eventually find him. After sharing this information, Yerla Morel quickly disappears again. This encounter leaves Baba Voss unsettled as he desires to be the only father figure for the children and does not want them to ever leave. It also disturbs GB, who overhears Baba Voss shouting Yerla Morel's name. Armed with this information, GB approaches his Aunt Sair. During their discussion, it is revealed that GB's mother was executed for opposing the decision to make Baba Voss the chieftain of the Eleni tribe. At that time, Baba Voss was new to the tribe and secretive about his past. Still angered by his mother's death, GB swears to seek revenge. Consequently, he and Sair organize a clandestine meeting in the forest with a shadowy figure. This shadow is a mysterious entity who keeps her true identity hidden from the clan and has the ability to conceal her presence. GB requests her to keep an eye on Paris, to which she agrees. That night, inside their hut, Baba Voss and Magra are joined by Paris to open the trunk. Inside, they find a toy boat and, more significantly, a collection of books. While Baba Voss doesn't grasp the importance of these items, Paris recognizes them as keys to wisdom. She explains that the books hold the secrets of the Age of Vision. Magra, however, is not pleased with this discovery or the possibility that the children might be able to see, fearing it could bring them bad luck. Nevertheless, she consents to bury the books until the children turn 12. During this time, Paris senses that the shadow is observing them. She discreetly informs Baba Voss by writing the warning on his palm with her finger, but he fails to capture the shadow before she slips away. Following this, the shadow returns to GB. In an unexpected twist, she deceives him, claiming that the trio merely discussed routine childcare issues. GB is skeptical of her report and tells Sire that he intends to spread the news about the witch Yerla Morel by sending messages in bottles downstream until someone finds them. In the next scene, Baba Voss confronts GB and openly acknowledges their animosity towards him. He warns GB, stating that he is a fair man as long as people approach him openly with their issues. However, if they operate deceitfully behind his back, he warns that it will force him to revert to his former, more violent ways. Elsewhere, Tamakti-jun is struggling to find Yerla Morel, and out of frustration beats a villager who knows nothing. Meanwhile, back at the palace, Queen Kane listens as a messenger reads a letter from Tamakti-jun. The letter describes his failure and requests permission to abandon the mission and return home. However, Kane is suspicious of the message and decides to read it herself. She quickly determines that the letter is a forgery. Confronted with this, the messenger eventually confesses to forging the letter. For his deception, Kane executes him by cutting his throat with a small blade she conceals in her wrist. Then, while being pleasured by a woman, Kane begins to pray. Surprisingly, she refers to Jerla Morel as her one true love and prays for his return. She expresses a desire for him to father her children, hoping they inherit his ability to see. By achieving this, she believes she can forsake the traditional gods, as she and her offspring will become deities themselves. Following this moment of intimate reflection, Cain conducts a public execution for 2 more traitors who tried to deceive her with the forged note. The public criticizes Cain, pointing out her obsession with Jerla Morel over critical issues like the failing dam engines and rising water levels. Nonetheless, she asserts her divine role, claiming to be God's hand on earth. It is revealed that Cain uses electricity from the dam to regulate the climate in her citizens' homes during winter and summer, which she claims as magical acts. Demonstrating the supposed divine power, she executes the 2 betrayers by hoisting them in the air with chains and electrocuting them using the dam's turbine-generated electricity. The scene shifts forward 3 years. In the newly established Aleni village, McGraw reveals to Paris that Haniwa and Kofun can see. Baba Voss admits that he has also known about their ability for some time. When Magra is hesitant to give the children access to the contents of Jerla Morel's box, Paris persuades her to continue following his guidelines. Later, as a bedtime story, Magra tells the twins a fable about the 4 senses: scent, taste, sound, and touch, who lived in harmony until they were visited by their long-lost 5th brother, Vision. Vision's comments about their appearances caused discord among the siblings. Ultimately, they expelled Vision to restore their peace. Through this story, McGraw teaches Haniwa and Kofun that their ability to see is a burden, suggesting that they should live as though they are blind. As the montage of the tale concludes, the kids are approaching their 12th birthday. Magra has resolved to keep the box hidden from them indefinitely, but Paris disagrees and decides to show it to them herself. She reveals that the box contains books, and that their true father, Jerla Morel, left it for them. This startling news shakes their entire world. Upset by the revelation, Kofun storms out, prompting Paris to send Haniwa after him. Outside, beside a hearth, Haniwa reads a message from Jerla Morel. It explains that in ancient times, all humans possessed the power of sight, but their misuse led to environmental destruction. As a consequence, God punished humanity by taking away their sight, hoping to save the world. Now this power has resurfaced in certain chosen individuals, and the message urges the children to seek out Jerla Morel when they are ready to leave the village. That evening, Baba Voss learns about what Paris has done and confronts her. Paris justifies her actions, arguing that after everything Baba Voss has witnessed and done, he owes it to the world to foster the hope that Haniwa and Kofun represent, keeping this from McGraw. A few years later, now teenagers, Haniwa and Kofun ascend the waterfall to read in solitude. At the same time, far away on a riverbed, a young girl discovers one of GB's message-filled bottles. Meanwhile, at Kano Dam, Tamakti-jun arrives with 100 carts of supplies for Queen Cain. However, he fails to deliver Jerla Morel, as the queen had explicitly demanded. Facing his failure, he requests permission to take his own life, accepting execution as his due punishment. This deeply upsets Cain, but she recognizes that Tamakti-jun's failure to capture Jerla Morel poses a serious threat to her reign. Elsewhere, Haniwa proudly demonstrates her newly crafted bow to Baba Voss while they hunt turkeys. She developed the weapon using knowledge from the books Jerla Morel left behind. Baba Voss is both impressed and concerned by her skills. He advises her not to hunt a deer, fearing it would be too difficult to explain to McGraw how they managed to catch one without revealing that the books have been accessed. At the waterfall, Haniwa raises her bow and aims an arrow at her fellow villagers. She remarks to Kofun that she could easily kill them, and blame it on the god flame, which she knows is merely the sun. Kofun, recognizing a troubling violent inclination in his sister, scolds her for viewing the books as mere guides to crafting superior weapons. Haniwa is also thrilled about a world atlas she found among the books, which reveals that their village river connects to the Mississippi River and mentions an industrial town called Pittsburgh, likely the site of Queen Cain's Kano Dam. Elsewhere, a tragic event unfolds as Sayer's newborn is stillborn, appearing non-human. Some villagers blame Baba Voss, Paris, and others they call witches for this misfortune. However, the majority understand it as a consequence of incest, given the limited population of about 70 in the village, and the well-known effects of inbreeding. As a solution, a plan is made to attend a nearby festival to potentially find new clan members and mates. Baba Voss worries that traveling might expose their hidden village to the witch finders, but McGraw argues that the hard times ahead will inevitably push people away, and guiding them correctly is the best approach to manage the situation. In Kano Dam, Cain prevents Tamakti-jun from taking his own life after receiving GB's bottle, which reveals the location of the children. Meanwhile, Baba Voss and his group set out for a nearby festival. They arrive at their destination, the remnants of an old amusement park, now a gathering place for various traders and religious zealots who execute the non-religious for supposedly having the ability to see, even though these victims actually cannot see. Haniwa is appalled by these acts, but remains silent to avoid exposing her own ability. Tragedy strikes when Kofun is captured by slavers and taken to a large industrial complex along with other prisoners, including a young injured girl named Fetha. In pursuit, Haniwa finds a message from Kofun scrawled on an old car. "I am alive. Follow the path." With no other choice, she discloses this to Baba Voss, Paris, and Magra, inadvertently revealing her ability to read and write and her secret study of the books. However, Magra sets aside her concerns, as the urgent need to rescue Kofun overshadows everything else. Upon arriving at the industrial compound, Baba Voss admits that he is familiar with the place because he descends from a line of slavers. He further confesses that he was once raised to chain and sell people, a past he had long buried. However, faced with the dire situation, he resolves to awaken the violent side of himself he had vowed to leave behind. Wishing to spare his family from witnessing this transformation, Baba Voss enters the compound alone. Inside, Baba Voss eliminates many enemies, slicing their necks with practice ease. He employs tactics adapted to his blindness, such as scattering sand pebbles to track movements through sound, and sliding his blade along the ground to mislead foes about his position. Despite his intentions, Baba Voss is unable to keep his actions completely hidden. Although Kofun follows his father's instruction to cover his eyes, Haniwa arrives just in time to eliminate a threat with her arrow, witnessing her father's brutal methods in the process. After the conflict resolves, Kofun offers an apology to Magra, who walks away in distress. However, her anger diminishes once they return to the village, where Kofun shares that all he has learned and witnessed over his 7 summers makes him wish to stay at home. In contrast, Haniwa confesses that her readings and her lethal skills stir a desire to leave, yet she fears her own abilities and nature. In the final scene, Magra decides it's time to disclose everything to the children, as well as to Baba Voss and Paris, about Gerla Morel, a man whose virtue was overtaken by his lust for power. But as Baba Voss sets out to gather Paris for this revelation, he hears the sound of dogs in the distance. To his dismay, these are not just any dogs. They belong to Tamakti Jan, who is poised at the top of the waterfall with his army, ready to launch an attack. So that was all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. See you in the next one.